evening, and welcome to another episode of Rise and Thrive with Esther. I am so excited to be with you this evening, and thank you so much for subscribing. Tonight, we are going to talk about the 5 ways of how we can be happy. We're living in a time of a pandemic. We're living at a time where we have had hundreds of thousands of people dying. But that doesn't mean that we need to be miserable and sad and depressed. There is cause to be happy. And one of the ways we can be happy is by having an attitude of gratitude. What do I mean? I mean finding things that we are grateful for. So many times we take things for granted, like our health, the fact that we might be able to walk or talk. And because we take it for granted, we just say, oh, that's just the usual. And we don't realize how precious it is. 2 years ago, I was reminded of this when I was in a car accident. I was rear-ended and my back had a couple of herniated discs. And for the first time in my life, I couldn't jump. I couldn't wear high heels. There were so many things I couldn't do, and I needed help from people like never before. And anyone who knows me knows I'm pretty independent. But this injury was a real wake-up call about being grateful and thankful for just those small little things in life. And it took me a couple of years and lots of therapy. But as a result, I have a newfound appreciation for being able to walk, being able to jump, and being able to enjoy things in life that I took for granted before, like walking fast. So the first way to focus and have happiness in your life is to focus on what we have. The second tip on how to be happy is to stop focusing on our past failures. So many challenges and mistakes we make in life, and then we want to think it's the end of the world, but it's not. Failure comes to teach us. Failure is just feedback. Feedback on what works, what doesn't work. So if that relationship failed, you just learned what works and what doesn't work. That job that you lost, that's not a failure. It's feedback. Here's where I was, here's where I need to be, and maybe here are the skills I need to build so that I can make sure the next job I'm adding value to, so I'll be one of the last ones they even think about getting rid of. A lot of times we also focus too much on our past successes. Yes, I said that. Our successes that we had before. How many of you have ever heard people say, oh, back then, I used to be the best football player. I used to be the best basketball player. I used to do this. I used to do that. And it's great to celebrate those things that we have achieved, but not to the point that we forget that there's such a life and brightness ahead of our lives. So sometimes when we focus on our successes, it kind of makes us comfortable. It also makes us start being judgmental of others. But at the end of the day, all of that takes away from us experiencing joy and true happiness in our lives. So it's important. No focusing on past failures. Jennifer Aniston said it the best when she said, there's no regrets in life, just lessons to learn. And Joyce Meyer, in her book, Do It Afraid, which, by the way, is a fantastic book, talks about no focusing on the regrets of the past. Why? Because there's nothing we can do about it. We need to learn from the past mistakes and failures, ask God to forgive us, ask people to forgive us, make amends where we can, learn the lessons, and move on. So stop focusing on your failures if you want to be happy. Learn from it. That relationship that ended, that's not a failure. It's feedback. It lets you know what's working for you in your relationships, what we need to work on in ourselves. And not only that, if the relationship ended, that means there's something better if we do get the lessons. The third tip on how to be happy is to stop comparing ourselves with everyone else. We live in a time of social media. We've got Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of these social media apps. And we tend to forget that there are just single pictures of people, snapshot, a moment of their happiness. It's just a snapshot. You're not seeing behind the scenes that mother that has that baby and holding it. You're not seeing when the baby spit up on her. You're not seeing when that couple that got the cute, we together, how many years? You're not seeing the arguments and things they go through. What you're seeing on social media is just a snapshot of their life, which, by the way, could turn around in a heartbeat. So many times we tend to compare ourselves. Oh, if my hair was like hers, if my body was like hers or his. But what we're doing when we do that is we're taking away from the energy and the beauty of who God created us to be. So when we stop comparing ourselves to others, we start feeling better about ourselves. Lao Tzu once said, when you stop comparing and stop competing and comparing yourself to others, that is when people respect you. Teddy Roosevelt said it best when he said, comparison is the thief of joy. Don't lose your joy and your happiness because you're comparing yourself to someone else or what someone else has. Be grateful for what you have, and even more will come. The fourth tip on how to be happy is to find something in someone every day to give to. And it doesn't have to be money. You could give them your time. You could give them your talents. There might be an organization or a nursing home, which is something I once did before COVID. Go use your gifts and talents there. Many of them never get any guests. And what I used to do is I would go to the nursing home and I would give them an encouraging word. I would remind them that they're not by themselves. Or sometimes I would go and sing. And even though it lifted those people up, it also lifted me up. And each day I make it a commitment to do or give something away. Whether it's my time, it could be my money, could be different things. But the bottom line is, by giving ourselves away, we actually find ourselves. We actually find joy. And science shows that when you give something to others, endorphins go up in our brains. And endorphins are the things that give us that feeling of happiness. So that fourth tip for how to be happy is to give. Find a way to serve. Go volunteer somewhere. Go look in your pantry and take out 5 cans of food and give it to your local pantry. There's so many ways we could give. But if nothing else, you can give somebody a smile or a compliment each day and be sincere about it. Because there's nothing like putting a smile on someone else's face, because that in turn helps us fill our own tanks and our endorphins go up and we feel happy. And the fifth, but not final, the fifth way of how to be happy is to do you and be you. Do you and be you. And this is a challenge because we live in a society that always sends a commercial, an ad, something that says you're not enough, you don't matter. In order to do or be in this group and get our approval, you need to do this, that, and the other. And a lot of times we walk around with this mask on our face and this charade that we play, and we want to be like everybody else. But at the end of the day, no one can do you better than you. And I love what Oscar Wilde once said. He said, it's better to be yourself because Everyone else is taken. So that fifth tip about being you and doing you, it's so important because so many times we are trying to be like everybody else. And when we do that, what we're basically saying is, God, you made a mistake in how you made me, how you wired my personality, how you wired the way and allowed me to have the fashion that I do. And here's the thing. We are each uniquely made and created with a purpose. And if we're not being ourselves, we can't give others the blessings that come with that. You said, well, what's a blessing about being yourself? Well, I know for me, anyone who knows me knows that I'm going to be me wherever I am. I could be from the hood. I could be at the college stadium speaking to kids. I could be at a parent workshop. Wherever I am the same. Because I try to make sure I live a life of integrity. I live a life where I'm being true to me. And that's not easy. Because for me, it's cost me some relationships. When I was younger and I was being abused, that was the beginning of my journey of learning to be me. Because telling someone that a family member has abused you, I don't know if you've been there, but that can make people not like you. And I had even my own siblings saying mean, nasty things about me because I was being abused by my father and I spoke out. But that was the beginning of me daring to be me because I needed to be true to who I was. And there's so many times in life that we're afraid to be who we are. Now, I do believe, and I have learned, that you need to speak the truth with love. But so many times, just our personalities alone can be such a blessing to others. Because sometimes people just need people to be authentic with them. Don't be fake. Because at the end of the day, if you're being fake, one, it's going to come across. Two, people are not going to respect you. Three, at some point, it's going to catch up with you. And you can say, well, it works better because then I don't have to have conflicts. But at the end of the day, you have a conflict within yourself when you're not true to yourself. And that was one of the biggest challenges I had at 12 years old. And I remember the police said, are you going to go and tell us the truth? And I said, yes. And I told them the truth of what happened to me. And they had the nerve to look at me as if like, yeah, right. Because I dared to tell the truth that someone was abusing me who I actually loved, people didn't believe me. It wasn't popular. And for a long time, I went through hell with my family because of it. But it was such a powerful lesson for me because at the end of the day, I realized I was being true and honoring myself. And that was okay because I had to live with me. And that's been a motto that throughout my life and other people's lives that we've seen. And a lot of times we're afraid to be ourselves because we don't want to be rejected. But what good is it for a man to gain everything else in the world but lose his soul? And at the end of the day, when you can't be you and be who you were created to be, now granted, there are some things we need to work on, but when we can't be ourselves, we're missing out on giving the world a gift of singing, a gift of writing, a gift of compassion. You might be a person who loves to hug people. Now, we know it's the pandemic, so we may not be able to do it. But I have a friend, and that is her greatest gift that she gives to me, is when I see her, it's a big hug. So if we're not being ourselves and she wasn't being herself, that's a blessing and a gift she'd be missing out on giving the world. So the 5 tips again on how to be happy. 1, have an attitude of gratitude. Every day, I want you to find at least 3 things that you are grateful for in life. 2, no focusing on your past failures or your past successes. Focus and learn on what you can from those challenges and take it to the future. And remember that your past does not determine your future unless you make it. The third way to be happy is to stop comparing yourself with everybody else. You are you. And everything you see around you is just a snapshot, which we learned from the pandemic could change in a heartbeat. The fourth way is to give. Find a way to give and serve each day someone. If your husband wants a glass of juice, get up and go give it for him. If your wife wants her feet rubbed, let that be your service of the day. Find a way to give. Call a friend you haven't called in a while. That's giving. And the fifth and most important is to be you and do you. Because when you're you, nobody else can beat you, and nobody else can bring the happiness in your life that you can when you are being authentic. So please share this video with somebody else who you know wants to be happy. Tell me in a comment below, is there something I missed? Is there a way that things you do so that you can be happy? Is there something else, somewhere else, a special place you have that makes you happy? If so, please leave a message. Definitely subscribe, because each week I'm going to be bringing you a video and a talk. And if there's a topic you would like for me to discuss, please feel free. Because at Rise and Thrive, we are here to help people be lifted up and not just survive, but to thrive and have the life that God wants us to have and be successful using our gifts and talents, making a positive difference in the world. Again, this is Esther with Rise and Thrive. I'll see you during the next video. Bye-bye.